pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Bhagarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. That fan you can put on. It is all right. You can. You can. Perfect. Thank you. Can make a little difference. No, this is all right. Perfect. Just the right. So, in retrospect, after knowing that it is not snake, it is rope, when you look back and then give yourself a description of the snake, what was it? Everybody says only rope only appeared snake. Nobody says rope ignorance transformed into the crux of the matter. You collect every detail of Vedanta and miss this particular point, then you have collected all the details of the body and missed out the breath. A life telling. It's not the rope ignorance that appears or transforms to appear. It is rope. Ignorance doesn't look like snake. A rope looks like snake due to ignorance. Due to ignorance, the moment you say, ignorance becomes nimitta karana. It is only a reason, not the material. Ignorance of the rope is the reason why the rope appears as snake, due to ignorance about the rope. But it is not that really rope ignorance transforms and looks like snake. Similarly, it is not that the Brahma Ajnanam, it's not the self-ignorance that looks like Jiva. It is Brahman that looks like Jiva due to ignorance. That Brahman looks like Jiva due to ignorance is the tradition, is the Anadi Sampradaya. And that is the vision of the Bhashyam. And that is the vision of the Shruti. But somebody just came, it's possible to think suddenly, with a different turn. How can truth look inert? How can the conscious look the inert? It is the inert that should look inert. Therefore, the inert, the ignorance, looks the inert to the universe. Somebody just struck him. Sometimes God strikes you, sometimes the devil strikes you. Who knows? What strikes? It struck Duryodhana also. Why not I have the whole thing for myself? It struck him, even as a child. When my father is the king, why not I have the whole kingdom for myself? Why should I? It just struck him. Who struck him? Devil. Devil also sometimes strikes. Devil. Some wrong thinking, How can the conscious look the inert? How can the conscious transform to become the inert? They think, some transformation is required. That is also a devil's striking. Carrying causation into the truth. Using causation to explain everything. Using change to explain everything. So, they say, it is not the Brahman that looks like Jiva. It is the ignorance about Brahman that transforms and looks like Jiva. It is the ignorance about Brahman that transforms and looks like Jagat. There is nothing in it. How can Vedanta be interesting after that? It is the Brahman straight away that looks with Jiva and Jagat due to ignorance. Whereas the Mula Vidyavad is saying, the ignorance about Brahman transforms and looks like Jiva and Jagat. This is called Mula Vidyavada. Mula Vidyavada means avidya is not only the reason, but it is also the material. Not able to follow, you have to follow this very well. They say rope ignorance transforms and stands as the snake. We say nothing transforms, really. Rope only looks like, or rope only is seen as snake due to rope ignorance. They say rope ignorance transforms and stands as the snake. If snake is false, according to them, its material also should be false. The ignorance also is false. So kalpita ajnanam transforms to become kalpita sarpa. So the explanation for the sarpa is causation. Change. They explain change. Kalpita, false ignorance, changes, transforms to become false snake. Whereas the Vedanta says the rope, the reality within the empirical world, the reality looks or seen as a snake due to non-recognition of it. Similarly, Brahman itself looks Jiva due to the non-recognition of the Swarupa. There is a big difference. Not a marginal difference. Just to, not to trigger unnecessary debates, unnecessary rancor. In order to avoid, every thinking man wants to just avoid all this unnecessary rancor and dislikes and debates and arguments and rancor and dislike and hatred, etc. We don't want it. If somebody asks me the question, what is the difference between the two? I say, there is a literature about both. Go through and find out what it is. I don't want to say, unless you are there in the class as a student. While taking a class, I tell. But outside the class, apne aap padh lo, dekh lo. I don't want to get into debates. And some people thinking people are some marginal difference for getting. But those who understand seriousness of it. You can't say Brahma The ignorance about Brahman changes and becomes. This is not the result of ignorance. This is not the effect of ignorance. This is the error about Brahman due to ignorance. It is not the effect of ignorance. Universe creation is not an effect of ignorance. It is a perception, distorted perception about Brahman due to ignorance. Thus, this whole Sugama is ultimately is written there. And one of the main purposes, the main purpose of writing this Vyakhyanam is not only to explain away the Bhashyam, Vyasa Bhashyam, but also to show the difference between these two thinkings, you see, the traditional thinking and the thinking that came up in time. And when we argue, when we say Mula Vidya is not the material form, the ignorance about Brahman is not the material form, Jagat or Jiva, when we say, then and they will say you are not traditional, because Mula Vidya is taken as the traditional. Yes. Mula Vidya is taken as the traditional. Why? Because it has been there in the recent past for a long time, few 100 years. That's all. It's a traditional. This is the Sampradaya, Mula Vidya. The main problem is, how can you explain away the error through causation? Causation means change and transformation and become. Time is one of the ingredients of causation. It takes time to become something. That's causation. Something becomes something else in time. Something takes little time to become something. Something changes to become something else. And it changes also under given circumstances. Avastha, Desha, Kala, Avastha are there in the causation. Desha, Kala, Nimitta, Avastha. They're all there. It's a causation. Later on, Bhagavan says very beautifully. In the second, Janmadhyasya Yataha, Athato Brahma Jignasa, in the second sutra, Janmadhyasya Yataha. While writing Bhashyam on that, Bhagavan says, this is a world in which there is Desha, Kala, Avastha and Nimitta, Phala, Karma, meaning what? Causation, our questioning. It's referring to the law of causation. Everything is causation. How can such an intelligence, a universe that is embodiment of intelligence? Causation is intelligence. Where there is no causation, it's chaos. So there is causation in the universe, but the universe itself is not the result of causation. There is causation in the creation. But creation itself is not the result of causation. ये बात को अगर नहीं पकड़ेंगे, वेदांत कहाँ इंटरेस्टिंग होगा? It will just fizzle out. It will simply fizzle out. All my actions are rooted in causation. जैसे करता हूं वैसे भरता हूं is called causation. जैसे करे वैसे भरे. Even my thinking functions along the lines of causation. But the faculty of thinking is not the result of causation. It functions along the lines of causation. Life functions along the lines of causation, but itself is not the result of causation. It's an error. The dream, within the dream, there is law of causation. All my actions, whatever I do, my dream life is along the lines of causation. Inside the dream also, if I feel thirsty, then I have to drink water. And when I feel hungry, I have to eat food. If I see a man with a knife, I get scared. Therefore, life in the dream functions along the lines of causation. Life in the waking also functions along the lines of causation. But the waking itself and my life in it is not the result of causation. Amazing. Causation. The universe, life inside the universe functions. The events inside the creation obey the law of causation, abide by the law of causation. But the events themselves, the universe itself, is not the result of causation. It is a dhyasa. If we don't capture it, वेदांत will fizzle out in time. कुछ दिन के लिए जोश होती है वेदांत को मालूम है जोश व्यक्ति के अंदर जोश होती है वेदांत सिंपली फिजिकल इतना आसान थोड़ी है. Nothing can sustain you except the correct thinking about the truth. You simply finish up. And one thing that can really give a push to your thinking forward is life is not the result of causation. Therefore, because Mula Vidyavada has been there for a few hundred years, everybody thinks that is traditional. That's why when I began this years ago, 35 years ago, as soon as I came to Delhi, in fact even before I came to Delhi, I started thinking, my God, what is this? How can ignorance be the material for the other? Truth only appears differently due to ignorance. So, the timeless alone should look the time-bound jiva due to non-understanding. If ignorance itself transformed and became the universe, then Brahma. Vedanta should say all this is ignorance. But it doesn't say all this is ignorance, it says all this is Brahman. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. It's a Brahma hai. Tat Tvamasi. If the jiva were the product of ignorance, then the Vakya should say the what? Ignorance. Then they will say, no, the what to begin with, the what? Ignorance, and ignorance also is imposed on Brahma, therefore gradually the what Brahma, that is how it should be interpreted. I say, not that the Shastra say you are ultimately Brahma. Vedanta says thou art Brahma. Art doesn't mean ultimately, art means right now art. There is no gap. Where if there is a gap you can't say. Because there is no gap between wave and water, wave can be told, you are water. Supposing wave is water only after a little while, then it has in time you will be water. Then you will be water. Or you will be ultimately water. It's like saying you will be ultimately rich. Keep trying, ultimately you will be rich. Or you can say keep studying, you will be ultimately enlightened. But there is nothing wrong in saying ultimately you will know. But you can't say ultimately you will be Brahman. No, even now you are Brahman. That knowledge you may take time. What does it matter? Enlightenment, understanding may take time. But being Brahman, the fact of being the truth doesn't take time. It doesn't have any. It is eternal fact. So when I started this, amazingly some of the people said, this Swami is going out of tradition. He is drifting away from tradition. But really you are not drifting away from tradition. In fact, you are only discovering you are only straightening the kinks. Nobody can drift. I am not so stupid to drift away from tradition. Therefore, that is written here. Ekiya varnana madhyasa. Some people describe adhyasa like that. You have to follow this somehow or other. You have to use all your intelligence to follow what I am talking. If you can figure out this, it means a lot for you in your life. What is an error? There is no use of simply saying, oh, it is all ignorance. It's a reality looking different. Reality, I am seeing the same truth which is already within experience. I am judging it differently. That means if I judge something differently, it is not causation. It is born of, it is due to ignorance. What takes place due to change is causation. This is a distortion takes place due to ignorance. That is not causation. Distortion is due to ignorance. You can't say the milk becomes curd because of ignorance. Milk doesn't become curd due to ignorance. Because I don't know the milk as milk, therefore the milk becomes curd. The milk changes. Milk doesn't. That's causation. That's causation. It's all causation. A lot of things are causation. Even though I said a few minutes ago that human thinking also functions along causation, but the fundamental reason is ignorance. I become jealous of somebody because of ignorance that it has nothing to do with my happiness. If I feel jealous of somebody, he is growing, and supposing he stops growing, it is not going to contribute to my happiness. And if I think it is going to contribute to my happiness, it is due to ignorance. Ignorance. Thinking also, it stems from ignorance, though it also moves along the lines of causation. And if I don't do the right action, I get unhappiness. I do the right action, I get happiness. That's all causation. Why do I do the wrong action? Ignorance. Why do I do the wrong action? Ignorance. Thus, Ekiya Varnanam Adhyasasya, let us move. Slowly listen to it, imbibe it. We can do. You will be one of those fortunate to see it. I don't believe in it. I believe in the dedication. Soul to deserve everything. The dedicated should deserve truth. Dedicated must. And the moment you see the difference between the traditional approach and the Mula Vidyavada, let me tell you, it will not be possible for you to go back from Vedanta. It is the truth that is looking like you, the universe. That must become clear. Nothing else can look. It's not the Maya that is looking like you and me. It's not the ignorance that is looking like you and me. It's not some matter that is looking like you and me. It's not some thought that is looking like you and me. It is the truth that looks like you and me. It is Parameshwara. Why it is seen as me and the universe? Due to ignorance. That's not a big deal. That's okay, that's understandable. Why I see the rope for snake? Due to ignorance. Because I don't see the rope as rope. Therefore I see the snake. Is it causation? No, it is adhyasa. Adhyasa is where if something happens without involving causation, then it is adhyasa. If something happens, which is not happening really, if something happens, if the Brahman looks like Jiva without causation, then it is adhyasa. Aur kya? Aur kya hai ji? Therefore, what is life? Adhyasa ji. Whereas the scientists are trying to find out the causation. Is it going to work? Never. You can never find the truth through causation. I say the scientists also can understand one thing very well. It should not be difficult. For all, they only discovered that the earth is round. But the thought that everybody had that the earth is flat is an illusion, is an error. Is an error. Therefore, why did people, it is the round earth that looked like flat earth. Or it is the round earth that was concluded as flat earth. Now, does that conclusion have any causation? What is that conclusion? Let them come up with a word. What is that conclusion? They would have to say it's a mistake. It's a wrong notion. Why? Ignorance. If ignorance is due to a conclusion, if there is a notion due to ignorance, there is a notion due to ignorance. If there is a notion due to ignorance, then it is not causation. It's adhyasa. Any notion born of ignorance is adhyasa. Any phenomenon that takes place due to time and change, that is causation. That's causation. You went out into the cold and you catch chill. What is it? Adhyasa? You can't tell that, but Vedanta padlo theek ho jayenge. ये भी प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है इस दुनिया में, आई एम टेलिंग यू. Somebody has a problem and they say it is a problem born of causation and you explain, class attend कर लो ठीक हो जाएंगे. ये कैसे जी? How? There is a confusion between adhyasa and causation. Causation-born problems have to be solved only through causation. If the body feels tired and feels hungry, it's causation and I have to eat food. And hunger is my quality, is adhyasa. Body is one of my properties. And all the properties of the body are my properties. And the body is my property. And the properties of the body are also my properties. In this manner, this thinking is not causation. It is adhyasa. The fear of death, I will die. This thinking is adhyasa. I am born, is adhyasa. I am of the size of the body, adhyasa. Are you able to follow? So adhyasa is corrected through Vedanta. Whereas if there is a problem, a little problem in life due to some causation, I can't. If you have some pain on the hand, then you can't say, आप ब्रह्म सूत्र भी शुरू कर लो ठीक हो जाएंगे. अभी आप कितनी क्लास शुरू करते हैं? आप कितनी क्लास पढ़ते हैं? अभी तो मैं स्वामी जी मैं तो 5 दिन आता हूँ. अब 6वां दिन भी आ जाइए. And then you come for Brahma Sutra class. Sunday class आ जाना. So that you will have no time even to feel the pain. पूरा 7 दिन you are occupied. Poor thing. But this is not the way about it. Media. That's why this culture is an elite, is a great, is a wise man's culture. Culture of the wisest society. Certain problems have to be solved through causation. एक ही है वर्णनम अध्यास. अत्र केचिद वर्णयन्ति. Regarding this adhyasa, some people describe. Kechit, some people varnayanti, they describe. They say, ज्ञानस्य विषय पक्षपातित्वात्. आराम से सुन लीजिए. Wherever there is a thought, there has to be an object. ज्ञानस्य विषय पक्षपातित्वात्. Jnana always pertains to an object. You can't have a thought unless there is an object of thought. A very dangerous statement. That is a layman's thinking, but Vedanta वहां पर बहुत समझने की बात है. Thought must have an object. Therefore, if you have a thought of silver, then there has to be silver. Some kind of silver should be there, because you can't have a silver thought without there being silver. They say, the Mula Vidyavad is saying, we say, sir, there is only shell. You are only seeing it as silver. They say, you are not seeing the shell as silver, you are seeing silver as silver. You are only seeing the silver as silver. It may be less real silver. There is a silver. Why? Jnanasya vishaya pakshapatitva. You can't have the thought of rajatam unless there is rajatam. It is a dangerous thinking. Unless there is rajatam, it is like saying, you cannot have a thought of unhappiness unless there is unhappiness. That means fundamentally unhappiness has to be there in the self to feel it. If there is Rajatam, listen to it. If there is Rajatam and I see the Rajatam, then it is called Samyak Jnanam. It is right knowledge. Supposing there is no Rajatam, there is only Shuktika. And if I see the Shuktika as Rajatam, then it is Mithya Jnanam, it is a wrong knowledge. In wrong knowledge really, even though there is no silver, I still see silver. Because it is possible in this world we have right knowledge also as well as wrong knowledge. If I see the rope as rope, it is right knowledge. If I see the rope as a snake, then it is wrong knowledge. Now when I see the rope as snake, you can't say, then somebody comes and this Mula Vidyavadi comes and says, you cannot see rope as snake, that's not possible. There is a snake. How the snake is there? There is a less real snake than the real snake. Where from it came? When you don't know the rope, the ignorance about the rope changes to stand as the snake. Then you have the thought of the snake. Why? Because you can't have a thought of the snake unless there is snake. Though less real. Therefore here the Mula Vidyavadi begins his paksha. It's a very beautiful restatement of what Mula Vidyavadi says. Describing the stand. What do they say? They say, Jnanasya Vishaya Pakshapatitvat. Knowledge, truth always implies an object. Truth always pertains to something that is there. Arajatasya cha, if it is not rajatam, rajatavat avabhasane, arajatasya cha rajatavat avabhasane, in appearing as rajatam, shuktirálambanam, rajatam tu avabhasate iti vaiparitya apattehe, up to that. They say, sir, if you ever say that Shuktika looks like, the shell looks like, or the shell appears as a Rajatam, it is a contradiction. It is the Rajatam that appears to Rajatam, not shell. Shell has no business to appear as the Rajatam. Shell should appear only as the shell. And therefore, when you see Rajatam, what appears as Rajatam is not the shell, what appears as Rajatam is Rajatam. That means, when you see Rajatam in a shell, you are not seeing the shell as Rajatam, you are seeing Rajatam as Rajatam. This is not Siddhantam. Who is talking? Mula Vidyavadi. Ye Purna nahi hai. Mula Vidyavadi says, it's not the shell that appears as silver, it is the silver that appears as silver. If the Siddhanti were to say the shell appears as the silver, the shell appears as the silver. If somebody were to say, if the Siddhanti were to say, Mula Vidyavadi says, sir, if you say that the shell appears as the silver, that's a contradiction. That is a viparita. Rope has to appear as rope. Snake has to appear as snake. Every object should look as it is. It cannot appear something else. Why should it? Therefore it is a contradiction to say that the shell appears as silver. Then what appears as silver? The ignorance about the silver shell changes to stand as the silver, therefore silver only looks silver. silver looks silver. Not shell looks silver. Are you able to follow? No problem? Arajatasya cha rajatavad avabhasane shuktirālambanam rajatam tu avabhasate iti vaiparitya apattehe. It is a contradiction to say that the shell looks like silver. Therefore, how should we say? Mithyaiva rajatam abhat iti vyavahara anusarena. Mula Vidyavadi says, in retrospect, what you remember is false silver appeared. Whereas we say false silver did not appear, it is the shell that appeared as silver. That is the retrospect. Yeah. After enlightenment, you say, after knowing that this is not silver only shell, you say, it is not some lesser real silver appeared. That is not the retrospective knowledge. That is not the way one looks back at it. It is not that lesser. One doesn't say, oh, it is the lesser real silver that appeared. One says it is the shell, unrecognized, looked silver. There is this shell looked silver is the retrospective knowledge here, universally. Whereas the Mula Vidyavadi says that is not retrospective knowledge. In retrospect, one says false silver appeared. Are you able to follow? Mithya rajatam abhat. False silver appeared. But Siddhantam says shell appeared silver. वो शुक्ति का ही ऐसा देखा, शुक्ति का ही ऐसा दिखाया पड़ा. और मूला विद्यावाद से शुक्ति का ही ऐसा दिखाया पड़ा नहीं, फॉल्स रजतम दिखाया पड़ा, लेस रियल रजतम दिखाया पड़ा, मिथ्या रजतम दिखाया पड़ा. दिस इज द अनुभव. इति व्यवहार अनुसारेण, इस प्रकार के व्यवहार से मिथ्या रजतम, we have to accept some kind of false rajatam. Laukika paramartha rajata vilakshanam, which is something little different from the real silver in the market. Abhinavameva, a new rajatam. Rajata jnana avalambanam, which necessitates a thought about it. Tatkale, at the time of perception, samutpadyate is created. Iti kalpaniyam, aisa sochna chahiye. Mola Vidyavadi says, we have to, हम लोग ऐसा कल्पना करना चाहिए. We have to think. We should be creative enough to think. We should be imaginative enough to understand that it is not the shell that looked the silver, it is this lesser, it is the silver only that looked the silver. Which silver? Not the market silver, but lesser real silver. Why? Only silver can look silver. Shell can't look silver. Only Jiva can look Jiva. Brahman cannot look Jiva. Mula Vidyavadi helps the Dvaitis. Mula Vidyavadi helps the Dvaitis. Why? Brahman cannot look Jiva, only Jiva has to look Jiva. Ultimately Mula Vidyavadi would say, this Jiva, which is the product of ignorance, itself is. Jiva boils down to ignorance, ignorance boils down to Brahma, and therefore ultimately Jiva is Brahma, slowly Paramparaya. He traces to Brahma. But that is all unnecessary. In fact, this particular thinking, shell can't be seen as silver, only silver can be seen as silver. This particular thinking is dangerous. Why? Because if Brahman is not seen as Jiva, Jiva is seen as Jiva. Brahman is not seen as Jagat, Jagat is seen as Jagat. Then you accept true reality. It is not the Anandam that is distortedly seen as Dukkham, but only Dukkham is seen as Dukkham. Is it not? Therefore, going by this theory, you tell me, aap log samajh lijiye, independently just take up this. Is it possible? That means if you go by this theory of Mula Vidyavadi, that means a thing called distortion is not accepted by him. Distorted perception is not accepted. Everything is a creation for them. So if distorted perception is not accepted by the Mula Vidyavadi, if everything is creation, 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 you can't reverse the creation. You can reverse the distortion. You can't reverse creation. You can correct distortion of a perception. You can correct distorted perception. You can reverse distorted perception. You can't reverse creation. Then they will say, no, you can't reverse creation, you can destroy it. How? By destroying ignorance. Because ignorance undergoes change to become the one. I say you can destroy ignorance provided it is available for destruction. It's not a thing to be destroyed. Nobody destroys ignorance. Everybody corrects a wrong thinking. In correcting wrong thinking, and ignorance is gone. There is no such a thing called ignorance. There is a reality misunderstood due to ignorance about the reality. There is only a reality ununderstood. The noun should pertain to the reality. You can't have a separate word for ignorance. Ignorance is wrong. A reality ununderstood is the thing. There is no ignorance, there is a reality ununderstood. If there is only a reality ununderstood, then a reality should be understood. A reality ununderstood can throw up problems for me. Not ignorance throws up problems for me. A reality ununderstood throws up problems for me. A reality about myself ununderstood can throw up problems for me. Vedanta says that is tatveva bhayam vidusho manvanasya. Quotable quote. Veda says truth ununderstood poses a problem to you. Tatveva. Tatveva bhayam. The very tattvam, the very truth, Bhayam causes fear. Amanvanasya, if it's not understood. Any fact ununderstood throws up problems for me. Causes problems. Even a bimari, I don't know the reality about it, truth about it. A reality about a bimari ununderstood throws problems. Therefore, it is wrong to say ignorance causes problems. A reality ununderstood poses problems. Swamiji, then why not we say mathematically, reality plus ignorance? What are you talking? Before you put plus, where was that ignorance? Reality plus ignorance is wrong. A reality ununderstood plus. The moment you say reality plus ignorance, as if ignorance can exist independent of reality. The moment you say plus, you are accepting two. You are accepting two situations. You see, you can't solve illusions mathematically. Please understand. You can't solve illusions mathematically. That's why here it is said, truth ununderstood. So according to the Mula Vidyavadis, what poses the problem is not the truth. What poses the problem is not the truth ununderstood. According to them, what poses the problem is the ignorance. Distortion is not accepted. Only creation, creation, creation. Remember one thing in life, creations you can't reverse. Distortion, if your unhappiness is due to distortion in thinking, I can solve it. If it is somebody's creation, can you create? What your neighbor's creation you can't handle. Do you think that God's creation you are going to handle? Your neighbor's creation, he creates a problem for you, and you go to court, and your lawyer is bought over by them. It's such a musibat. I don't know why do we have courts. Why should we have courts? If the courts also are so funny, lawyers can be bought over. Where do you go in this world? The only thing, I feel the only viable thing in Indian context is take sannyas and get in somewhere, get lost. Really. It's so useless. You can't handle. Unless you have huge amounts of money, you just can't get justice in this country. Why can't courts be honest, upright? Why can't the lawyers? The lawyers must be upright. They should not even accept any fake case. They should always help the good. The lawyers must help the good. क्या ले जाना है? Accumulate, then what? All the money that you accumulate, your daughter-in-law will take anyway. You think you are giving it to your son. You better believe me, your daughter-in-law will take. Remember this, you will be less dishonest. Hey Rama, मेरा सारी कमाई मेरा बहू ले जाएंगे ऐसा सोच ले then you will take less bribe. Yes, if you say my son will enjoy, that will become a big incentive to take more bribe. Evo here, creation, if it is God's creation, that you are unhappy if it is God's creation, you can't do anything about it. Even if it is a product of ignorance, you can't do anything about it. Some ignorance transforms and becomes dukkha. What can I do about it? If I am unhappy due to my wrong thinking, then I can correct it. Then I can help myself. I can help only myself only when it is my thinking that is harming me, not otherwise. If it is my wrong thinking that is harming me, then I can help myself by thinking rightly. If I am unhappy because of some creation from above, or some transformation of some stuff called ignorance, what can I do about it? Therefore, going by the Mula Vidyavadi, you can't solve the problem. Clear? Iti vyavaharanusarena mithya rajatam laukika paramartha rajata vilakshanam abhinavameva rajata jnana avalambanam tatkale samutpadyate iti kalpaniyam. They say, you are not seeing the shell for silver, you are seeing the silver as silver. Where from did it come? Shell doesn't throw up the silver. Your ignorance about the shell transforms and becomes silver. And your thought about the silver. Now this is the explanation. Why I see the silver? Because there is silver. This is what I said. That's a dangerous thought. Why I see the silver? Because there is silver there. Now, if there is a real silver, then I should continue to see it. Then they say it is little less real. It is less real silver. It is less real than the market silver. What do we say? Bhashyakara says, hey, there is no silver. Shuttika hi rajatamiva avabhasate. Shuttika hi rajatamiva avabhasate. Shell itself looks silver. Is taken, is judged silver. Shell itself is judged silver. It is a distorted judgment. Whereas they say, the ignorance about the sun quickly goes through change. Similarly, the ignorance about Brahman transforms and stands as Jagat. Ignorance about Brahman transforms and stands as you, Jiva. Whereas the Shruti is saying it is not the ignorance about Brahman that stands as Brahman, as Jiva, Jagat. It is Brahman that looks Jagat. It is Brahman that looks Jiva. In fact, everything is only Brahman is looking at. Brahman looks the space. Brahman is seen as space. Brahman only is seen as air, fire, water, earth. Smadvaya tasmad atmana akashi sambuddha akasha vayu vayu ragni agni raba prithvi prithvi vodvaya vodvibhyo annam annat purusha is prakar sari. There is nothing else. Only truth looks the entire. This is the tradition, really. This is the tradition. Truth looks everything. It is the tradition, Vaidika Sampradaya. Then somebody in time comes and says, it is not the truth that looks everything, it is the ignorance about the truth that transforms and looks everything. Because truth being conscious can't look the inert, it is the ignorance that looks the inert. Causation? I say consciousness also can be distortedly seen as inert. Anyway, like a dream, you close your eyes and then become only conscious. All the thoughts disappear. That means all the inert is gone. You are only a conscious being, and then you begin the dream. And the dream are all inert forms. They are all kalpita in consciousness. What is that? It is the consciousness really that becomes the material for all the forms. Within you is dream. Don't say ignorance is looking like dream. Ignorance doesn't look like dream. The very dreaming Chaitanya, the very conscious being looks like both the dreamer and dreamt. We continue it later. I know it's a long topic. You have to have. How much patience do you have to have? Infinite patience. Swamiji, what is the length of the infinite patience? Infinite is the length of the infinite patience. And if you understand Vedanta correctly, this is all being said. The very definition of Adhyasa, if you understand correctly, you will not be able to go back. That's not possible. There are certain milestones after crossing which you won't go back. But if you don't cross those milestones, you can again slip back. Chodo. Takes no time. When you don't get the real breakthroughs, real insights into the truth, then that is why the inspiration given by a few satsangs where do's and don'ts are told, it will not last for long. It will not really create great things. All compromises will come into life again. But if you study Vedanta and really cross those few milestones in the journey, like the one that we are doing now, what is it that looks like me and the universe? It's not anything other than the truth. That's a big insight. I am none other than Parameshwara looking like me. Means I don't take myself lightly. I don't take myself as just one of the many forms. I am the being looking like forms. Then you become very serious about understanding yourself. Therefore, will not take yourself lightly. Like a person having crossed a few milestones in education, school education, he will not go back. He will continue. And then supposing, he doesn't cross those few milestones and then really some distractions come, he will drop out. It's so easy. Until those milestones are crossed, everybody is a fence sitter. Fence sitter. कभी भी कुछ भी हो सकता है. क्रॉस भी आ सकते हैं या खान मार के भी जा सकते हैं. We are always at the crossroads. Until those milestones are crossed, we are always at the crossroads. Crossroads between Ramana Kendra and Khan Market. Yes. If that should not happen, these insights you have to grasp. I can't do you anything better for you than clarifying these points, I'm telling you. You have been so good to me, and I can only reciprocate that goodness by just very, very seriously drawing your attention to these insights. At least I should do that job. Because minus them is nothing. Then you will become a pracharaka or something. थोड़ा बहुत दुनिया में करेंगे. Then you will be interested in doing bade cheez. Then you will go to you will start doing them. Then like J. Krishnamurti said, the moment, even if human beings found the truth, it is not easy for them to find the truth, and if they ever found, they will try to destroy it by creating an institution in the name of the truth. That's what he said. What he meant was perfect. Because I say everything is rooted in truth. Why? What is there to popularize it? You can always teach truth, but don't have the anxiety to popularize. Anxiety would deny, anxiety to popularize the truth, first of all, would deny yourself the truth. Yes. There is no need. Shastram is there. You can always tell the world, there is something in Vedanta, go for it. You can always roar to the world like Swami Vivekananda did. You can roar to the world, there is something, go for it. There is already the unfoldment in Vedanta, go for it. Never think there is nothing. There is something to understand, go for it. That's it. This has to be, this difference must be said. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vrishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Ji. Thank you, Ji. Hari Om 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 Ji. Hari Om.